Hi there, I'm Craig Webb, and boy, do I have news for you. Not long ago, I published the 2026 edition of Webb Analytics Construction Supply 150. It's 73 pages long, and that makes it the biggest and most comprehensive freely available report on the size and scope of America's construction supply dealers. And that group includes lumberyards, specialty dealers, hardware stores, and home centers. The CS 150 is loaded with a lot of charts and tables and commentary that's going to give you an extra look into what's happening in our industry. Now, you can get it for free at www.web-analytics.com. In this video, I'm going to give you a summary of what's in that report, along with commentary from some very good experts. Now, the CS150 is made possible through the support of industry sponsors. This year, those sponsors are the Geon Group, Epicor, Boise Cascade, Biometrics, Masonite, Orgill, Toolbox, Pennsylvania Lumbermen's Mutual Insurance Company, LBM Advantage, and HiArc. So now let's get into the report. The Construction Supply 150 is comprehensive, but it isn't definitive. All the biggest guns are here. We are missing some pro-oriented dealers in the $100 to $250 million category, largely because they declined to take part. And there are tens of thousands of small independents who aren't even big enough to get onto this top dealer list. But the people you're going to care about the most are in this list, from Home Depot and Lowe's to ABC Supply and Builders First Source, Menards, all the way to 84 Lumber. All told, we estimate that CS 150 members represent about 2/3 of the entire market for residential construction, remodeling, repair, and DIY products. And we think the responses that the members gave Webb Analytics to our survey are going to give you a great sense of how dealers are doing today. I'm going to start with the headlines. Now, there's no question that 2025 was a tough year for America's biggest construction supply companies. Collectively, their sales rose just 1.4%. That's less than the inflation rate, so odds are that CS 150 members actually sold fewer goods than they did in 2024. And they wouldn't even have shown that gain if it weren't for the fact that they bought other companies and thus got to include those new results in the totals. The Home Depot and Lowe's were two of those companies. We'll talk about them later. If you remove those two, the rest of the companies in the CS 150 recorded a 1.2% decline in sales. And that group also was benefiting from adding branches and buying other businesses. If you look only at the CS 150 members that didn't grow at all, their sales went backwards. They shrank by 5.5%. I've been telling people that life in construction supply today is like being on a paddleboard. There's no tailwind, no tide to propel you. If you want to get ahead, you have to do all the paddling by yourself. And that definitely was the case in 2025, and so far, 26 is looking the same. Now, buying groups keep an especially close eye on the state of the market. At LBM Advantage, CEO Dave DeJoy mentioned some of those challenges and dealers' outlook for 2026.
There was small growth last year, flat to small growth in 2025. So many things piling up against them, right? From tariffs to now fuel prices to the interest rates, affordability, things like that. But they're optimistic, right? We've been waiting now for a couple of years, probably more, for the pent-up demand to be released, right? We went out of this COVID period and we kept talking about, well, there's going to be a recession in 6 months, and it kept getting pushed 6 months, and it never happened. But neither has the growth. And I think we're a bit optimistic, maybe not this year, that rates are going to come down. The economy will calm down. The Iran war will get figured out. Oil prices will come down, and they'll see flat to little growth again. No one's anticipating large growth, but by the same token, they're not expecting a reversal as well.
At Orgill, Boyd and Moore is seeing many of the same challenges.
Well, I think most people are dealing with a new chapter of uncertainty since the Iran war broke out. I thought things were looking stronger in the first quarter, the way we were seeing things. But the price of gas since the war's broken out has really created a lot of negativity in terms of consumer sentiment, I think, which is at an all-time low right now in May, even lower than it was in April, which set a record from 1977, I think. So I think this uncertainty is just creating some problems and kind of moving forward.
You may be wondering why I gave this year's CS150 the title Hidden Assets. There are three reasons why, and all of them tell important stories about what's happening at America's lumber yards, specialty dealers, home centers, and hardware stores. The trend started in 2024 when the Home Depot bought SRS Distribution. Soon after, QXO acquired Beacon, the big roofing company. That was followed by SRS buying Gypsum Management and Supply, and Lowe's buying Artisan Design Group as well as Foundation Building Materials. This year, we're seeing QXO acquire both Kodiak Building Partners and TopBuild. Meanwhile, the Home Depot's SRS distribution has gone heavy into HVAC by acquiring the Mingledorff's chain. All of these things are definitely changing the positions of dealers at the top of the CS150 list just from where it stood at the end of last year. Now, these are hundreds of locations and billions of dollars worth of revenue that we're talking about. And the big aren't just getting bigger, they're starting to play a different game. And here's why. The typical contractor works with a couple dozen subs and suppliers to build a house. Full-service lumber yards can deliver a lot of products to the job site, but mainly it's involving the building envelope. However, putting up a home requires more than just sticks and doors and windows and shingles. You need insulation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, concrete, landscaping, lighting, and so much more. That's why builders usually have to deal with so many subs. The one difference with the Home Depot is that you can buy all of those products from that store. The trouble was that until recently, that big orange box didn't know how to serve pros. It didn't deliver products, it didn't give trade credit, and its home centers didn't have room for the variety of products that pros need. Now, this has started to change, particularly when the Home Depot bought SRS. That company brought it hundreds of branches to hold specialty products. SRS also gives the Home Depot expertise and trade credit, as well as in roofing, landscaping, and pool supplies. And now, by buying Mingledorff's, it knows a lot about HVAC too. The other giants aren't quite at that level, but they're getting there. When QXO bought Kodiak, what had previously been a roofing, siding, and waterproofing operation now had the ability to help builders with lumber, doors, windows, steel, and components like trusses and panels. By purchasing TopBuild, QXO is now getting a company that not only sells insulation, but also installs it. And what about Lowe's? It's going the interiors route, using its acquisition of Foundation Building Materials and Artisan Design Group to help customers install drywall and interior finishes. According to the Geon Group's Richard Nuttall, this urge to merge is just as strong today as it has been for the past 2 years.
The appetite for getting deals done is still there. The acquirers that we speak to regularly are always on the prowl for a platform opportunity, and that's what you're seeing in the marketplace. You're seeing a lot of these huge deals get structured, and from our perspective, they would be smaller than, we're not involved in that kind of activity, but still platform opportunities are out there, and there's an appetite for them, and when it makes sense, it makes sense.
Now let's turn to the second reason why the CS150 is about hidden assets. In this case, it's something that's been going on for decades but hadn't been getting much attention, and that was the trend toward making value-added products and offering installation services. It used to be that lumber yards and home centers and hardware stores just sold stuff. But today that's changing big time, especially among CS 150 members. They're getting deep into doing value-added work by building trusses and wall panels or attaching hinges and handles to doors. As I noted before, this has been going on for quite a while. The difference is that lumber yards increasingly are buying up businesses that offer these value-added services. That's particularly true with truss plants, and often they are starting their own operations from scratch. All told, 86 companies in the CS 150 manufacture products. They earn $15.8 billion from value added. That's over 1 out of every $5 they take in. But there's another side to this hidden asset, and that involves installing products. We're seeing a steady increase in the amount of money dealers get by installing themselves or by coordinating the work. You see it most often when the product involved needs an expert in order to help assure it's installed properly. That explains why some of the most popular work involves installing windows, doors, and countertops. Builders know that if they use cheap manual labor to put in those products, they run the risk of costly repair and warranty work down the road. So they increasingly rely on talented CS 150 staff instead. You don't hear people talking much about the installation services that the Home Depot and Lowe's manage, but it's over an $8 billion business for them, and other CS 150 members make nearly as much from installing things. One example is a newcomer in Minnesota named Catalyst Supply. When Brian Alexander launched the company in 2020, he used a two-pronged approach. He sold windows and doors and decks, but he also installed them. I think that as time goes by, we're likely to see more stores like Catalyst Supply across the country. The third and final reason why this report is called Hidden Assets stems in part from that first trend. A few decades ago, publications like ProSales would have lists of top dealers with as many as 400 companies. Today, between consolidations and business failures, the Census Bureau's count of construction supply companies has dropped by nearly half. You definitely can see that trend at the top of the list. Companies like Kodiak, GMS, TopBuild, SRS, and Foundation Building Materials all used to get their own listings in past CS 150 reports. Now that they're part of bigger companies, they're going to be gone from the list. And when those billion-dollar operations get absorbed into giants like the Home Depot and Lowe's, they become minor appendages. In fact, when you look at the Home Depot's financial results, the billions of dollars taken in by SRS and GMS aren't even broken out in the Home Depot's quarterly earnings announcements. They just get combined together into the other category, and you have to dig into the SEC filings and do some calculations to find out what's happening with each individual sub-company. It's a similar story with Lowe's. Foundation Materials and Artisan Design Group just get put into the other category. Meanwhile, a bunch of dealers that used to be regulars on lists like the CS 150 have decided to stop revealing their revenues. And try as I might, I couldn't get 150 companies to tell me how much they took in last year. As a result, this year's Construction Supply 150 list only has revenue for 144 companies. Other dealers made up the difference by providing information about themselves without giving their sales numbers. Those anonymous companies are the hidden assets that made it possible to write about 150 dealers. Hi there. Now let's take a look at what CS 150 members are doing technologically. Construction supply companies have a reputation for being slow to change, and you can still see green screens in use at some companies. In fact, even today, nearly 40% of the CS 150 members responding to the question said they spent no more than 1/2 of 1 percentage point on information technology. But the average for the entire group is 1.38%. And that's not only a big jump from 1.09 last year, that 1.38 also is moving the CS 150 closer to the average for all retail and wholesale companies, which is about 1.5%. Also, the biggest businesses in the CS150 didn't tend to reveal their IT numbers, so it's possible the entire CS150 is already on par with all retail companies. Epicor's Sean Keeley has been working with construction supply companies for the past 16 years. He says more has changed in the IT department than you might think.
I remember walking into that dealer, it was in Rochester, New York, saw they were using green screens, and I thought, what did I just do? What industry did I just join? Because, at that point, it was 2010. Green screens were not common in personal computers anymore, but they were still common in this industry. And so, coming in, that definitely was the case. I think it has changed and we've moved past slow to adopt. I don't think we're at the point of cutting edge in the LBM space, but I do think dealers recognize the value technology can bring in their business. And I think it's a general statement. It still varies widely. Some push the envelope with technology. Some see it as how they can differentiate their business. Others are just using it for, the basic functions of things. But overall, the industry has come a long way in the 16 years that I've been part of it in terms of what technology can do for their businesses.
How are they spending that money? Well, two charts give us indications. The first here shows the already substantial number of CS150 companies that have invested in dispatch delivery and fleet management software and other services. They're even starting to buy customer relationship management systems after years of saying that they weren't going to do so. E-commerce also has seen a lot of investment. We're heading to a time where just about all CS150 members will have the ability to present their bills and get paid online. These companies are a little further behind with regard to inventory and delivery related programs, but I think they're getting there soon. Of course, construction supply companies aren't the only place where you see technology advancing. In fact, you could say that dealers' customers are progressing faster than the dealers simply because those contractors were further behind. They were just using Excel spreadsheets and a cell phone. These contractors now are getting better and more comprehensive systems. As a result, dealers increasingly will be asked by their customers to work with the contractor systems rather than demand that the pro use what the dealer has. As an example, consider the material takeoff and pricing estimate. Traditionally, lots of builders have handed this work off to dealers because it took a lot of measuring and calculating before you could even figure out a price. Now, there are a lot of computer programs out there that can look at a design, automatically figure out the materials needed, and even pull up pricing data. Software programs like Hierarch are taking this a step further because they're combining several different pieces of software that builders use over the course of a project, and they're merging those pieces of software into one seamless program. That merger includes the estimating work. Kevin Brandon of Hierarch says these changes ultimately can help both the builder and the dealer.
Let's say a builder is using CAD or some other platform today, and they produce a lot specific after the buyer has configured the home, and they ship that over to the dealer. Today, much of that workflow is human operated, and the quality and the speed of the output of the estimate really depends on the quality and accuracy of the person doing the work. Using our AI technology for estimating, a dealer could actually just run that plan through our AI estimating tool and have a high quality, very fast, very accurate turnaround on the estimate and be able to provide that back to the builder so that they can get to the market more quickly and reduce their soft cycle time in the industry. On the opposite side, you might have a builder who's already using Hierarch who can feed that information over to their dealer who can consume it very quickly and then again return the material count very quickly. We have indications that the range, when you really consider all the costs of producing an estimate, can be anywhere from $400 to $700 an estimate. And we have demonstrated that we can meaningfully cut that in half, if not less.
Of course, the big new trend everyone's talking about is artificial intelligence. So what's happening there? Well, compared with the survey last year, we've seen a big jump in the percentage of CS150 survey respondents who are using AI for any function at their company. It's still early days at these companies, and AI is more of a writing and financial analysis tool than a helper on the operations side, but we're getting there. Most examples of AI tools are pretty generic in terms of how they can help any kind of business. But we are seeing examples now of products and services that are being built by LBM experts specifically to benefit dealers and their customers. For several years now, Toolbox has been helping dealers expand their online services, from billing to websites. Now, Eric Bornstein and his team is helping dealers understand what AI can do for them.
When I talk to dealers, it's really about having dealers stop thinking about AI as just a product and start thinking about it as leverage for the people that they already have. And I'll give you a couple examples. So every dealer I talk to has similar problems, 3 to 5 problems. One is orders coming in across 50 channels, text, email, phone, fax. You got AR that takes, weeks to collect, quotes that take days, even weeks to turn around. And every one of those actions buries the best people in low value work. Um, so when we're talking to dealers and they don't know where to start, it's really about literally writing down everything you're doing in a week or in a day and thinking about how you can use AI to automate some of the repetitiveness that you're doing. And really the message is like AI isn't about replacing those people. It's about giving them back their time. So that order desk veteran that has 30 years of product knowledge, you don't want that person keying in items into the ERP. You want that person catching the mistakes, advising contractors, solving hard problems on a full house package. Your AR person, you don't want them just making calls and chasing invoices all day. You want them managing the customer relationships. And so AI really handles the repetitive part, and we think about the human part staying human and getting better over time.
You're a lumberyard, figuring out how to buy lumber better is a really big issue. We're long past the days just after COVID when prices were sky high. We're also now seeing examples of products and services come online that are being built by LBM experts to benefit dealers and their customers. For example, Biometrics has offered technology for years that has helped lumber buyers make better purchases. But now it's rolling out software that uses AI to make better sense of all the pricing information that buyers get over email, faxes, and the internet. Scott Mole explains.
We know the communication flow in the lumber industry, buying commodity lumber and building materials is it's very labor intensive, lots of manual interaction via emails and phone calls and stuff like that. While our system automates that considerably right now, there's still a lot left to be automated. And we foresee AI becoming a major player, leveraged AI that's managed by the buyer to be able to facilitate better communication and more information flow in the lumber industry between the buyers and the vendors. There is the ability for them to get better information. Therefore, they can save money by having better access to information, making better decisions. And yes, of course, the efficiency is there. They can save time. And also being able to understand and look for new opportunities that might exist or created in this more of the information flow. The more information you have, the better decisions you make.
One of the CS150's greatest values is the benchmarks it provides. For example, in other reports, you might see general numbers for sales per employee, but the Construction Supply 150 breaks them down by company type. We do the same with sales per branch. For all the reporting CS150 members, the average was $16.9 million per branch, but that average includes thousands of home centers. So if you remove the Home Depot and Lowe's, the average sales per branch for the other companies is $42.5 million per store. We also often break down activity by business emphasis, and these are reasons why the CS150 is 73 pages long. Let's finish by talking about people. Dealers have had trouble for years finding people to join their teams. Today, that problem appears to have eased up just a bit. CS 150 members report it has gotten easier to find many types of workers, including facility and department managers, yard workers, counter people, and executive staff. One of the biggest declines compared with 4 years ago was finding admin. This could be a sign that the rise of artificial intelligence is making it possible for fewer people to be more productive. Meanwhile, the biggest challenges finding workers still involve truck drivers and sales reps. But even drivers aren't as much of a headache today. But on the other hand, finding the right sales rep is as challenging as ever. No matter who is getting hired, it appears the cost of these workers is going up. Dealers that kept the same number of facilities as the year before reported spending 6.3% more on payroll. Now keep in mind, this group that didn't grow in last year, they said their sales shrank over 5%. So now you've got a combination of increased expenses and lower sales, and that is sure to have squeezed profits. You'll recall from earlier in this video that we mentioned Catalyst Supply, a fairly new company to the business. Catalyst isn't the only green shoot in construction supply, however. For all we've reported about how difficult it is to succeed today, new companies are entering the business all the time. And from giants like QXO down to businesses just getting their first $1 million, people are betting on LBM. Pennsylvania Lumbermen's Insurance has been around since 1895, so it's seen a lot of ups and downs in LBM. Pennsylvania Lumberman's Steve Hicks says he believes the industry will keep moving forward.
The dealers that we talk to, it's such a resilient group. You think about it, so many of these operations managed through the Great Recession. And right now, what we tend to see in conversations is that folks are just very disciplined, really focused on managing right now. They're a very capable group. I don't think it's a secret. I think margins are being crunched across the board, but it's a group that's well positioned to handle that. And I'd say that's kind of what, when we have conversations, folks are they're managing.
So those were the highlights. If you haven't downloaded the report yet, you can do so at www.webb-analytics.com. Thanks again now to our sponsors, the Geon Group, Epicor, Boise Cascade, Biometrics, Masonite, Orgill, Toolbox, Pennsylvania Lumbermen's Mutual Insurance Company, LBM Advantage, and Hiarc. Thanks again for watching. Please tell your friends about this video, and I look forward to connecting again with you soon. Bye-bye.